Purim Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day so far. Hope you're enjoying the Simcha of the Purim day. You know, this is a special Purim. It's a year into this experience that we've been through together. It's a little bittersweet. It's sweet in that there's so much chesed happening. There's so many great Zoom programs, the Mishloach Manot, the Hamantash, and the amazing efforts that our youth committee and so many others have made possible are really bringing such deep sweetness and joy to this Purim. And there's a little bit of sadness because I'm sure, like many of you, I'm remembering last Purim. I'm remembering the last time that we really were together in this room, 400 of us or so, smushed together, enjoying each other's company, music, laughter, food, games. It's a different world. And I'm just starting to reflect and step back and think about what this past year has meant. I think for so many of us, at least for me, I've just been so in it, it's been hard to step back and think. And I wanted to share a reflection on Purim that has given me some meaning and some perspective as we mark a year into this crazy experience. So Purim is a time of Hester Panim. It's the theme in many ways of this holiday, the hiddenness, Hester, Panim, the hiddenness of the face. And usually that refers to God, right? God doesn't appear in the Megillah. God's name does not appear in the Megillah. God is hidden. God is hidden behind all the crazy schemes and all the ups and downs of the story. God is hidden. And this is alluded to in the Torah, that there are going to be times, Hester et Panim, that God will be hidden. God's face will be hidden. It's prophesied in the Torah. So it's no surprise that there are times in our history, times in our lives, when God's presence is hidden from us. But in addition to the aspect of God's hiddenness, I'm also thinking about human face hiddenness. This is a time, this past year, where our faces are in a period of Hester. Our faces are hidden from one another. Whether it's because we don't see each other physically, we just don't see the face, or we see each other but we're behind a mask, so we're partially hidden, or we see each other through the computer, which is its own mask, its own filter, its own covering of the panim, of the face of each and every one of us. This has really been a year of Hester Panim, not just of God, but of one another. Our faces are hidden from one another, and that's been difficult. There's a teaching, however, though, of the Pachad Yitzchak, very beautiful teaching, famous teaching of his about Purim. He says as following. He gives a mashal, a parable about what Purim is. It's a little perplexing, kind of a bit of a mystery, but let's see if we can figure it out together. He compares Purim to the following example. There's two people, and they've both been given the job of identifying faces, panim, of identifying faces at night. Okay? Two people, and both have to identify people at night when it's dark and they can't see. One of the people gets a flashlight. So the Pachad Yitzchak says for him it's pretty easy. He turns on the flashlight, boom, and he can identify the face. The other one has no flashlight. It's much more difficult for that second person. So that person has to develop a new skill. It's the skill of identifying people by the sound of their voice. And over the course of the night, the second person, he's slower, it's more frustrating, it's not as efficient as the flashlight, but he learns this new skill to identify people by the sound of their voice. And then the Pachad Yitzchak writes that when morning comes, the person with the flashlight will just kind of put the flashlight away. It serves no function during the day. The sun is shining, everything's bright, everything's fine. I don't need this flashlight anymore. The person who, though, identified people by the voice, who learned how to do that, is going to keep that skill even in the daylight. He has a new way of identifying people. He has a way of connecting and identifying with people based on how they look and how they sound. He can identify people based on what's on the surface, but also things that are maybe more hidden or more difficult to discern. And that person is going to keep that skill even in the daylight. And thus ends the parable. It's a bit of a strange parable. But I think what he's getting at is something maybe that we can all relate to, is that in times of hiddenness, whether it's hiddenness from God or hiddenness from one another, we've had to learn how to find other ways to identify each other. We've had to figure out other ways to know and connect and feel the presence of one another, even when we can't see each other and be with each other in the way we normally would. We're in a period of Hester. But in that period, we have discerned, we have learned, we have grown, probably in ways we don't even know yet. If I had to ask you right now, well, how have you grown over the last year? Again, it might be too soon. We might not know. I don't think I could articulate it. But I also know that I have. I know that I've learned things about myself, about other people, about the world. I've learned lessons and things that will help me for decades to come in my life. I know that there is wisdom that's been gained now. I can't articulate it yet. Probably none of us can yet. But I also know that when the day does come, when the light does start to shine at its full strength, and it will, I know that I'm going to have new skills and new abilities and new ways of feeling the presence of one another and feeling the presence of God in those times. And that's Purim. That's what Purim is about, says the Pachad Yitzchak. It's about developing new ways to discern God even in the hiddenness. And it's about taking those ways from the times of hiddenness and bringing them into the times of clarity and being a richer and fuller and better version of ourselves in those better times because we've been through the dark times and we've learned those new skills. So that's one takeaway from Purim this year that I'm bringing into Shabbat and into the rest of the year. And I hope you find your own takeaways. Purim is such a rich and evocative and complex holiday. It is a kid's holiday, but it's so much more. And I hope that we're each experiencing the joys and the mysteries and the depths of Purim, each in our own way today. And I wish each and every one of you a wonderful Shabbat, a safe Shabbat, a healthy Shabbat. And we'll talk to each other again soon. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Purim.